I'd like to call a special friend and investor over. Daniel, can you please join us? His name is Daniel Gutenberg, and Daniel is by profession a unicorn hunter. So, hello, Daniel, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Gilly. Thank you so much for having me. It's
So,
great to be with you on stage.
thank you. So Daniel, can you please share what does it mean, unicorn hunting?
So unicorn hunting is very easy. You find a company amongst many that is in the size of 1 to maybe 10, 20 people. And then you finance it, and then you wait until they become a unicorn, a $1 billion valuation company.
Okay, sounds simple, but how do you do it? How do you know that this specific? What's the secret sauce, or what are you looking at?
So it's pretty easy. I look every year at about 700 to 1,000 companies, startups
Wow.
that are in the size of 1 to 20 people. And then I make 5 investments every year. And I just take the 5 best out of the 1,000 I've seen. And then I'll hope, and some of them become a unicorn.
And what would be your like top, I would say, criteria? Because seeing, let's say, thousands and
So the top criteria is to have a CEO that I believe is a winner. So
okay.
I'm looking for a boat that I can join with a captain that I think will reach his destination, and while going to his destination will not throw me overboard on the way.
Okay, so criteria number one and is the leading person, the co-founder who's also the CEO who's leading the ship, so to speak, or a boat
Absolutely.
at this stage. Okay, and are there any other criteria?
So the criteria on how to find out if he's going to make it to the end is to have a look at his previous trips and maybe ask previous passengers or previous co-workers or mates if he was a good captain with them, and did he get where he promised to get to, and did he do that in the time he said he will, and stuff like this. So I kind of look
Okay.
at past experiences.
And where could he or she be from? Is it like Europe, Israel, global? Is there any?
So I call myself a global investor, but my global is a bit different from a normal map. I started investing a lot in the Silicon Valley. Then I invested in Europe, and then I started to go to Brazil and to Israel. And so that's my global map. I got myself a bloody nose in China, so I'm not doing any Chinese investments anymore.
Okay.
I don't do Africa because I just don't know anybody there. So my map is really Brazil, Israel, Europe, and not as much anymore the States as I used to.
What about the content, the domain, technology? Are there any additional criteria that you would prefer or prioritize?
So I only invest in stuff that will be, at least 100 times better than what's already out there. I'm not interested in markets that exist and products that will go into an existing market that be 10, 20, 30% better than the competition, not even if they're 50% better than the competition or cheaper or whatever. That's not my interest. I'm interested in stuff that is 100 times better or cheaper. And so I won't have any risk. Once the product exists and is on the market, there is no question about it that everybody is going to want to have it. The only risk I'm taking is that maybe we'll never make it. Maybe it's not possible to make it, or they cannot make it.
Okay. Are there any domains you would not invest in? Like, I don't know, bio or high risk domains or very long term investments?
Well, Well, my sweet spot in investing is always 10 years. I always invest in stuff that I think will be mainstream in 10 years, exactly 10 years. If they're mainstream in 5 years, I think there's probably some other companies already and there will be competition. And if it's only ready in 20 years, I think we're probably going to run out of money before we get there. So my sweet spot is really exactly 10 years. And that's what I'm trying always to find out, what is going to be mainstream in 10 years.
Gotcha. So you're looking for the ship captain has to be a marathon runner as well. In Athens.
It's not a marathon. It's only 10 years, you know. I do a lot of life sciences investments where 10 years is nothing.
Okay.
So when I do the life sciences investments, I really have to look at the timeline even more precise than in the technology investments.
Yes. And from your portfolio, how many unicorns how many have matured to be a unicorn so far?
So I think we're at 13 unicorns, and as my friend Amnon said the day before yesterday, 2 of them are made by him and made in Israel, Mobileye and Orcam.
So by Amnon, you refer to Amnon Chashua.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's go into the Israeli aspect really. So you're one of the first investors, right, with Mobileye?
Yes.
And this was your first Israeli investment.
That was my first Israeli investment. Yes.
Okay. So looking at Israeli investors and now with entrepreneurs and now with your global perspective, what can you what advice can you give an Israeli entrepreneur, let's say, approaching you first?
Well, probably the same advice I give everybody, but Israelis especially are very direct, which is good. But in approaching an investor, probably you shouldn't go cold. It makes more sense to have a warm introduction. It's almost impossible for me to look at the 700 to 800 business plans I get cold in my inbox. It's much better if it goes through somebody that I know and respect. And if this somebody that I know and respect has already invested, and it really doesn't matter if it's $5,000 or $500,000, then I will look at it even more excitedly, as if it's totally cold.
And if we move away a little from the investment and look into the business side, since we're a little about Europe, so Israeli startups going to Europe and the big differences in cultures, are there any advice? Let's say, what are the 2 top things an Israeli entrepreneur should be aware of when he approaches a Swiss, German, Austrian company? Let's say, what should they do?
Well, it's the usual thing. I mean, you should be making sure that your communication is flawless and doesn't it's not full of grammatical errors and stuff like this. You should make sure that you come on time. You should make sure that you hold your promises. If you say you're going to send the pitch deck in an hour, send it in an hour. If you're going to say you send it in a week, send it in a week. And if you say you're going to call back or in a month or so, then do it the way you say you do it. And show your own excitement, but not only that, also listen to the investor on his hesitations and work also on his hesitations.
Okay, so you're saying bring actual facts to back up beyond credibility and punctualness. So really address the things and
also listen really, and because there's very different type of investors, and so you have to listen to find out, is that an investor that used to be a banker before and is really looking at your 10-year plan and EBITDA projections and finding out if that checks out, or is it more somebody that is an entrepreneur himself and that knows the market and has insight about the market you're going to go in, and has hesitations because of that. It's a totally different pitch, and totally different aspects of your pitch that should be put forward.
Right. Daniel, I'd like to open up to questions from the audience. So please, everyone out there, if you have any questions, this is a great opportunity to ask Daniel and learn from his vast experience. So please use the chat to type any question you'd like, because we could continue talking for like hours now. But good. So till the questions are in, I have one more question I'd like to ask. If what do you think would be better when approaching investment? Would it be an executive summary, a well-written one? Would it be a pitch deck? What is and how? What is the winning one? And whatever you say.
I think a one-pager is usually the best. Anything that's longer than 10 pages will never be read by a professional investor that only looks at the stuff. I would go with, first either a really cool email or a one-pager, followed by something that has like 10 to 15 pages, and then only, everything that's longer than that I'm personally not interested in, but other family offices or more bank type of investors will maybe look at, but not for me. So you need to have kind of every version, but make sure you go one after the other, and only when the interest level is here, because there's nothing worse than to bore an investor. Very difficult to get him out of the board sale again.
So I take it that the suggestion is, please tailor your pitch per investor and preferably per person if you can.
Absolutely, and start with small bites.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to send him a 50-page pitch deck if he's not even interested.
Okay, so like a small teaser to start. If there's interest for more information, send a little bit more. Don't dump everything, and only at the end give everything.
I think after the pitch deck, maybe better to have a discussion and then come with, or after the teaser and then come with the pitch deck and more information.
Okay, fully understood. And Daniel, you're invested in how many Israeli startups altogether?
I think 3, maybe 4, 5, I don't know. I didn't count them.
Cool. So fingers crossed that there will be more. We have another question.
We have one together with Flytracks, of course, that we're very happy, I think, both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question here from Karin, who's asking if you're also investing in seed investments, early stage.
So yes, of course, I do seed investments. I pretty much think that 80% of my investments are seed investments, very early stage.
Okay.
But also there's a little caveat to that. I will lead seed investments only if the persons are close to me and I know them very well. If it's a seed investments outside of the country, and if it's far away because I don't know the people, I will only follow a trusted lead investor.
Understood. Great. So Daniel, our time is up. Thank you very much, and I hope to be seeing you soon in person again.